Hey there, my name is Pravus, and welcome to Dune Spice Wars. This is a new real-time strategy game that came out in early access just last month. And having played around with it for a little bit, I'm really surprised how in-depth and polished this early access title is. I think we got a winner here, guys, and I'm excited to show it off for you today. Of course, we are playing in the fictional universe of Dune on the planet of Arrakis, fighting over those oh-so-valuable spice deposits because, of course, the spice must flow. There are 4 different factions that we can pick from. Each one is a little bit unique in their playstyle because of the different bonuses and powers available to them. We have House Atreides, or Atreides, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it, the House Harkonnen, the Smugglers, and of course the Fremen, the true natives of Arrakis. And you can probably guess what some of the bonuses are going to be based around. The Fremen, for example, have really good survivability benefits in the desert planet of Arrakis, and can even ride the great sandworms, whereas House Atreides would be more noble and diplomatic. The Harkonnens, ruthless. You kind of get the idea. I'm going to play with House Atreides because I think they are probably the most recognizable. There are a handful of different bonuses associated with these guys. I'll let you read some of this, but since you don't know what any of it means, I won't spend too much time on it. We'll also pick a couple of counselors. We have the Lady Jessica, Duncan Idaho, Thufir Hawat, and Gurney Halleck. All of them have some special abilities associated with them as well. I'll go for, let's say, probably Duncan Idaho and Thufir Hawat. That's going to give me some good abilities to expand for a little bit cheaper, and some pretty good intelligence agents. Again, you don't know what that means, but that's A-okay. So a lot of this game is about resource management, trying to take over zones of the map, and manage a very fragile economy, which is ultimately all based around spice extraction. There's actually a deposit of spice right over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my Ornithopter, which is a scouting unit, and move him into this zone. And he's going to automatically start exploring any points of interest that might be over here, especially the spice, right? Now, the resources you have to manage, and there are quite a few of them. We'll start with the Solari. This is your currency. The primary way you're going to get this is by selling some of your spice to the Chom Spice guilds, right? And we can change the exact ratio of the amount we are selling versus the amount we are putting into a stockpile. Why do you need a stockpile? Well, because the Emperor demands a tax of spice in exchange for the rights to mine on Arrakis. It's kind of a long, complicated story. I'd recommend reading the book sometime if you ever have a chance. It's pretty good. He is going to demand a lot, and if you don't pay that, then you are going to be in a lot of trouble. So you want to make sure you are mining just enough to put in the stockpile and pay your taxes, but everything excess goes off to make more money so you can expand your economy, because the demands are going to continue to rise. Beyond that, we have plascrete, which is a building material, manpower, which is needed to man the extractors, as well as train up military units, fuel cells for vehicles, water, because, I mean, obviously on a desert planet like Arrakis, water is, shall we say, very important, authority, which allows us to project our power on the planet, and then a couple other things up here that I won't touch on quite yet because I don't want to get too far into the weeds. So our Ornithopter is going to go over here. He's going to first explore the zone enough to at least reveal the entire area of the map. Then all these question marks are going to be explored automatically. We could turn this Ornithopter on auto recon, and then he'll simply move around to every single zone and explore every nook and cranny. I'm not worried about that right now. I'd rather find out what resources are close by to my capital city over here if possible, before I send him off to go and do his thing. So he's going to find some point of interest over here. It's probably going to be like a salvaged wreck or something like that. Then he's going to explore over here and find a village. Now, those villages need to be subjugated so I can control the resources. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and train up both a trooper, which is a melee unit, and a ranger, which is, well, a ranged unit with the special ability to focus fire if they are targeting the same thing. Each unit takes up some of your command power, so you can only ever have so many units on the map, at least until you get a few upgrades. And each unit does have an upkeep associated with them, both in terms of Solari and in terms of manpower. So be aware of that. You don't want to just be training up a whole bunch of units. You want the bare minimum you can get away with to control certain vital points on the map. Let's go ahead and move you over here and continue. So we found Ark Alta, which is our village, and it is attached to spice, so I know this is the first place that we need to go conquer. I'm going to grab my units, and we're going to start marching down here. Now, there are 2 bars over the heads of these military units. We have green for health, and yellow for supply. As long as we are in our own territory, we do not consume supplies. The moment we exit it, though, we are going to be draining through that supply pretty quickly, and if they don't have enough supply, enough water, whatever, they're going to take huge amounts of attrition and die. Some of these zones are going to be deep deserts, and they're going to be horrible for your supply. They're practically impossible to cross, unless you are the Fremen, of course, but, well, who worries about that? So let's get up here to this city. And then we are going to attack it. 2 militia units are going to appear to defend it, which we'll go ahead and deal with right now. There we go. You can see our supply is going down, but we should be able to win this fight before it is too late. Let's see. There's some zones over here. I'm surprised the Ornithopter ran into a totally different zone rather than continue exploring over here, but okay. We'll find out what's going on over there in just a moment. We'll take over this village, and what we're going to do is we are going to simply subjugate them. However, we have to worry about a sandworm that has appeared on this area. Get over onto the sandstone, you fools, before the worm kills you. This happens pretty much anytime you have either units or harvesters moving around on the map that create a lot of vibrations. It draws the worms, and you kind of saw the ripples in the sand over there. If your units are standing over there, then a worm will literally pop up and eat all of them. I have lost entire armies that way because I was not paying attention, so be aware. The Fremen, however, pretty much don't have to worry much about that. They're very good at navigating the sands without having to worry. All right, so we've arrived over here. We have taken the village. Now we're going to take control of it. That cost me some water, and it cost me some of my authority. We're going to stand here for a little bit and simply take control. Once we take control, we can build in this village. Okay, now that we've taken over the village, we have a couple things to worry about. First off, let's take a look at the tech tree, which is called developments. There are 4 different categories of techs that you can research. There's intelligence, which is pretty important to undermine and backstab your competitors, I'll say. It's actually surprisingly powerful. Military techs to improve your units and open up new ones. This, I guess, would kind of be more diplomatic. It's village-based technology. For example, less authority to annex villages, more knowledge for developments, less upkeep on villages, that kind of stuff. And then these are all economic technologies, making some buildings cheaper and build up faster, assign more crews to harvest spice, a lot of important stuff down over here. You can see, by the way, with the icon here for our house, there are 4 unique technologies. The Fremen obviously wield different, so will the Harkonnen, so will the smugglers. Again, everybody ends up playing a little bit differently because they have some different local tech. Let's go over the dialect studies, which reduces the authority cost for annexing, because I plan on doing a fair bit of this. And then after that, we'll move on to composite materials, so I can construct things for a little bit cheaper. Every bit of resources matter in Arrakis, and you need to make sure that you are as efficient with that as possible. Now, our units are going to be getting their supply back in friendly territory, and they're going to heal here as well. So don't worry if your units get injured. They're going to be A-okay. Let's go to the city and build our first structure. Now, I need to build a refinery first and foremost to harvest that spice, so we'll place it right down here. Every building does have an upkeep associated with it, so don't just go building everything for the heck of it. And also, you have a limited number of buildings, so think through carefully what you want each zone to do and what resources you're willing to spend and maintain on those structures. In this case, though, harvesting is just non-optional. If we don't pay our taxes, we gonna get in a little bit of trouble. Now, I am building another Ornithopter over here because, I need more scouting potential, so I think that could be fairly helpful for me. So that's going to cost me a lot of my Solari as well as some fuel cells, but I think it's going to be well worth it to get a better sense of where we want to expand in the map. We now have our first refinery, which means we get a harvester, which is going to extract the spice. Now, I would like to deploy this. Before we do, though, I'm going to spend 50, you heard me right, 50 of my manpower in order to improve the harvester with extra crews. That increases how much spice we are going to get by, I think it's about 20%, 25% by default. We're going to go ahead and deploy this. That means a shuttle is going to appear to pick up the harvester and drop it off. Now, be warned, the sandworms are drawn to the noise made by your harvesters, and if they are in the zone, there's a good chance they're going to eat your harvester. So you'll need to be paying attention to that warning and automatically pulling your unit back to the city in order to protect it, and then send it back once the danger has passed. I need to pull you back because if I lose this unit, I'm going to feel very, very silly. Should be safe now, though, so you're okay. Perfect. One thing we could do is auto-recall, so I don't have to worry about watching for it myself. That does reduce the amount of spice I produce by 1, but I think that's kind of worth it just to make sure I don't make a mistake and lose this. Now, you can see here, there's my spice stockpile being built up right now. If we click on the spice report, we can see how much we are currently gaining and whether we are going to have enough by the time that the taxes come around. And the answer is yes. We could build up a larger stockpile for the heck of it, but the exchange rate of of Solari for spice with the Chom is going to change every spice period, and 2 is at least average, so I'd rather make as much money as possible, and if we ever see ourselves in a situation where the price and exchange rate is really, really bad, then maybe we'll spot more to having a large stockpile. that could be good. Let's go ahead and move on to taking control of this city. I do want to have a bit more control of what's going on over here. What's this? An abandoned Fremen camp. Okay, well, let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and use an ornithopter to just explore this and get some free plascrete. What we could do once we have a spy agents is instead start exploring this area to get a different reward, but I'm kind of okay with plascrete, so let's not worry about it too much. We have our local dialect studies just in time to spend less authority, so that's going to be nice. And now we're working on composite materials, so we don't need to spend as many resources getting some basic things, like plascrete, whatever it's going to be. By the way, down over here, I did notice that there is a mineral deposit, so we'd have more plascrete if we take over this zone and set up a factory here. I do like that idea. I just kind of first need to let my units heal up for a little bit, if you don't mind. New village controlled. Now, we don't have a ton of water to work with. I am going to need some of that. We could go over here and place down a wind trap, which would allow us to extract water for every wind level in the region. I think that's probably worthwhile. We'll go ahead and place this down so I'll be able to take over another zone. This tile has a wind strength of 4. That's okay. I feel like 4 is pretty average. You can find 5 and I think even 6, but pretty much anything lower than that is not really going to be worth your time. Over here, I used my second ornithopter to explore a crashed shuttle, which is going to get me some extra money. I'm going to set you to auto recon, and then you are going to resolve this, get me some more plascrete, and then find out what is to the north of me so I know if I want to expand up in that direction anytime soon. Now, we are going to be taking this village just in time for the wind trap to give me some much-needed water, so we'll spend some of that to get this up and a-running. Other buildings that we have access to, well, we could get a fuel cell factory and produce more of those cells, which is great if you plan on building up more ornithopters, or if you plan on setting up some more harvesters because you found another spice deposit, which we would love. Maintenance centers are going to reduce the solarium plascrete upkeep of all buildings in the adjacent regions, which can be helpful. Then there's military buildings, more manpower production, airfields so we can rapidly redeploy people, which is pretty helpful. Missile batteries to do lots of damage. Also statecraft, extra knowledge, extra influence, extra hegemony. And a couple of those resources we haven't even really had a chance to touch on yet, so you'll probably want to know what those are. Let's first talk about hegemony. Hegemony is something that builds up over time to a maximum of 25,000. The higher this is, the more abilities you're going to have unlocked. For example, 2,000 is required to even start building special structures that are actually very powerful in our capital city. So we do want to get this up to 2,000 as quickly as we can. Another thing you have to worry about is the Landsraad, which is kind of like a ruling noble council that deals out laws and edicts and holdings to the people who are able to garner the most support. So if you go to the Landsraad Council in a couple of days, I'll show you what that means. Now that said, let's also talk about intelligence and espionage shown right over here. We do generate some spies or agents over time, and then we can assign these guys to several different jobs. We can assign them to some of our rivals and start building up a resource called intelligence. So we'd be able to set up some missions like probing a region or poisoning a region, and some of these actually end up being really powerful at some point, even, for example, assassinating leaders of the other faction. You can have win conditions if you do this correctly. It's kind of interesting. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and set this guy to just basically infiltrate Arrakis itself. That's going to get me extra authority production, some intelligence, and we're going to be able to detect some of the raiding sieges, or little neutral spawners that are located on the map. And by having at least one person assigned here on some of these little things here, for example, now we would be able to have a special different type of reward, for example, increasing our siege detection. I'll click on this as an example, right? So now, after I guess 4 minutes of the game, we will have a new reward. So it's just nice to have that early on. Just gives you a few other options depending on what you want to do. Now, I am going to make sure we get some plascrete going right away, especially in these zones where I have extra bonuses for it. Plascrete factories, if you have the extra building slots and no idea what to do, is always a safe choice. It only takes plascrete in upkeep and generates far more than it costs. So it's strictly a net gain. It doesn't cost you any Solari whatsoever. And you can use this extra plascrete to maybe sell to some of your other rivals for a bit of money. So excess is pretty much never a bad thing. Raid has been detected. This will happen on occasion. Some of the raiders, some of the locals, will come from the hidden sieges, again, like little spawners located somewhere in the map, and they will try to attack some of your villages. We're going to head down over here to Fawn Pokes. I'm pretty sure they're going to attack there. Something I could have done, probably should have done, is trained up some militia in order to better defend and hold off, but I think we'll be okay. Let's just go ahead and move our military units down here, and we'll see how fast these guys do train. We will send our rangers down over here, and let's hope that we can get some militia available to take care of this. Alternatively, you know, it's kind of at that stage of the game where getting another trooper wouldn't be a bad idea, so I'm going to go ahead and train up a third one over here. Third military unit, I mean to say. Now, because there were no defenders over here, that means they are starting to take over the city, but it's going to take them a little while, so we can take some pot shots at them, and hopefully they're not going to be going anywhere. I'm not really worried about this, to be honest. We have paid our first round of taxes to the Emperor, and now he's going to demand 184 next time. We should be able to meet that need without even changing up my ratio, so I'm not going to. I want to keep stockpiling as much Solari as possible because we're going to need a lot of it in the future. They keep trying to take this village, but if we just keep microing them back a little bit, there's not a lot that these guys are able to do. And here come all the extra military units. So, like, who cares? These guys can't win. We have received a trade request from the smugglers. They want some of my... they will give me spice, and some Solari. They want a research agreement, which is going to reduce both of our authority production, but a bit of extra research isn't a bad idea. Plascrete, I'm actually willing to sell, and I hate to give up my influence, but this isn't a bad thing for me to get. You know, I will accept. This means we probably don't need to start stockpiling quite so much of the spice, so we can pull back on this at least a bit. And we should still be just barely able to make enough. All right, extra income for me. I like it. Now here's the Landsrod I was talking about. Okay, so these guys are going to have some random different laws, edicts, policies that are going to appear for vote in the next 4 days or so. As the Atreides, I have 100 votes that I would be able to spend, plus I'm generating some influence I could spend for extra votes, and I'll show you how all that works in a little bit. Some of these are just outright pretty terrible for you, but they're kind of terrible for everyone as well, and you may want to be situational about it. For example, reducing influence production, probably not a good thing because as the Atreides, I should be able to generate a pretty good amount of influence, but everyone would suffer if this passes, so it's not the end of the world. An elected faction getting cheaper units or extra Chome Spice exchange rate, however, is pretty good. Like, I might want to put every single vote I've got into winning this. Now, this is one area where the Harkonnens have a pretty nice advantage because they can see where everyone else spends their influence, so they have a good idea where to spend their votes and their resources to make sure they win things they care about. Kind of a nice little bit of intelligence, but we won't worry about that too much. Let's get over here and continue conquering more cities. Hello! I see some Fremen and Harkonnen ornithopters running around. Okay. Now, here's something weird that's going to happen. I did just attack this village with the intention of taking it, but something that then appeared to my attention is another spice field located over here. And if this seems like something we can take, I actually would rather spend my precious authority taking over a second spice field. Increasing the amount of income and stockpile we can get is kind of huge. You want to get as much of that as possible. Pretty much the top priority always needs to be taking more spice if you find an opportunity and you realistically can defend it. Let's see what the results are. Darn it. All right, so the Harkonnen spent more than I did, so they got the controlled markets here. Ouch. Yeah, I would have loved that, and the smugglers get cheaper military units, and then apparently enough people voted in support of the influence reduction that we have been penalized there, so pretty much everything sucks. Great. Okay, well, we have some envoys. We could spend a bunch of Solari for some hegemony. That doesn't seem very good. Alternatively, let's take control of 2 villages. Yeah, this could be kind of like a little quest in the next 16 days or so. I'm already working on that. Should be doable. No problem. Now, perhaps unsurprisingly, the desert world of Arrakis is, shall we say, very unforgiving. This is an example of a sandstorm right here. If your military units or your ornithopters get stuck in here, there's a very good chance they go missing. So be prepared to pull them back. Crap. I didn't mean to give this up. Darn it. Hang on. We can get this back. Sorry, I forgot. We had to keep our troops here. Here's something interesting. Okay, so we detected a siege. This is where some of those raiders are spawning from. Over here, we would be able to trade some water with them in exchange for, let's say, something like manpower, which doesn't seem that great, to be honest, but it does increase our relations level, and the higher the relations level, the less attacks we have to deal with, and eventually we might even be able to get them to a point where we can ally with them, which could give us some nice little bonuses. For example, cheaper troopers. So let's say I just wanted to spend 10 water, right? That's a lot of water, don't get me wrong, but a lot of water in order to try and gradually improve this. We should see the relations level are going to be going up a little bit over time. New council votes. Ooh. The elected faction gets Landsrod guards. Very powerful military units. That could be pretty good. I also would really like the authority production, though. That's the thing. That could be pretty helpful. Obviously, I would like to decline the labor rights thing, which increases my manpower upkeep, but it's not the end of the world. Frankly, I'm actually making some decent manpower, so we could possibly get away with this. Military units or authority so I can conquer more territory. Which do I want? Ugh. Honestly, all of them, but I don't think we're gonna have enough votes for both. It's gonna be one or the other. I think I'm going to go for the authority, and I'm going to spend a whole bunch of my influence, like almost all of it as well, trying to make sure we win this, because authority is what's currently preventing me from taking over more spice fields. Not military power. That would obviously be nice to deal with, but, you know, that's the thing. So this guy right over here, what we could do as the Atreides is peacefully annex these guys. Now, it does take 15 days, which is a long time, and some influence and stuff. But we don't have an authority, and it's at a pretty long distance. So this is a great way of actually taking this stuff pretty much for free, even if it does take a long time, without having to march all the way over here and take a lot of damage in the process. Be a very, very good option for me, if I can get more authority, hence why I would really like to increase that by 30%. Okay, we have reached 2,000 hegemony, which means my city now is able to construct some different buildings. Okay, there's a lot of different things that would be very, very useful to me. Going for the extra knowledge, for example, would allow me to start ramping through a lot more of these techs, which is great. Increasing the amount of harvesting we get, which could be pretty good as well. Also, crews have defense to them. That's not bad. Recruitment center for more manpower, plus faster training for military units. Not so great. Influence production, and also agents assigned to the Landsride produce some extra Solari. All that could be kind of helpful, or extra authority projection and hegemony gains, and a portion of my hegemony could become Solari. That's not so bad. Intelligence agency, lots of agents. I mean, like, lots of agents. Yeah, that could be kind of fun. One thing to keep in mind is as you start getting enough of the same category of building, you'll start getting extra perks. For example, even one economic building will improve my economic research speed by 20%. Then we could boost up our Solari production and our hegemony from Chom shares. That could be interesting. Power, so our military units just fight stronger, have armor, extra maximum influence, and then Landsrod standing. Well, I have to think that research is pretty good. Now, keep in mind, that upkeep is pretty high. That is a lot of upkeep, lots of upkeep. So I'm very wary about the fact that we might be setting ourselves up for some problems with some money. One thing I'm going to try to do is take over this city right here, and let's see what these rare elements do. I actually haven't played with these yet. I'm wondering if they, like, convert directly into gold. If so, that actually would be very, very useful. We'll find out in a minute. Oh, gosh, a sandworm right here. Bad timing. Move. Run into the sandstone. You absolutely can sometimes... Ooh, spice. That's actually good to know. You can sometimes trick your enemies to walking into a sand area and getting swallowed up by a worm, by the way. That definitely can happen. It's a little bit mean-spirited, but if it works, it works. Okay, what does it do? Does increase Solari production. That would be great. However, we need technology. Structured warehouse. Eee. Well, I've been working on outpost logistics. All right, we're gonna cancel the research. Yeah, cancel this for now. I don't think you lose progress. Let's swap over to structured warehouses for the processing plant first. Then we can move on to something like, well, we could do a Atreides merchants. Nah, we don't have enough relations for that. Outpost logistics and stuff after that would be fine. One thing to keep your eye on as you are exploring the world of Arrakis is there are some special zones that can be found. For example, over here, the Well of Riches is a special region. Control this and you'll get a 100% boost on a plascrete processing plant, and you get a lot of hegemony. There's another one down over, let's say here, the Polar Sink for lots of water and hegemony, or I think there was another one somewhere over here. Where was it? The Observatory Mountain. Yeah, even more plascrete plus some hegemony, etc. So all of that can be pretty nice. We're gonna get attacked down over here. Okay. I do have some militia already over here, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough against 3 units. It might be enough to hold off when my military gets over here, though. It's going to take a while. Now, how do you ultimately win this game? Well, there's a couple different ways, depending on the game mode you've got set up. You can go for a domination victory, where you simply kill everybody else's headquarters. For example, I can see the smugglers are located right over here. Another alternate way is to eventually go through all these different special charters of the Landsraad to become the judge of the council, the speaker of the council, etc. Big government roles and honors until eventually you can win the Dune governorship. Now, this also does require we are allied to some sieges, which we can do, and also we have to build up standing with the Landsraad itself. The higher this is, generally speaking, the more votes we're going to get and the better things are going to look for me. We like it when the government likes me. In fact, it even gets me more spice exchange rates, etc. The Atreides are pretty good at building up standing. That's one of the good things I can do. So going for a diplomatic victory and trying to win the governorship is definitely a good call if we can pull it off. Now, this is something interesting. The smugglers have sent a bunch of units over my direction. I don't know if they plan on attacking me or not. They might be going for Dalmon over here, but it looks to me like they might be trying to take on Ark Alta, which, if that's the case, then I very much need to get my military units down there ASAP. Now, one thing I did do is build an airfield over here so I can rapidly redeploy some units. So, we're going to go ahead and spend 60 gold to deploy them right over here next to my capital, and sure enough, it looks to me like they definitely are... Well, are you? Yeah, you're thinking about it. They haven't decided to attack yet. Yep, they have. Okay, hang on. The smugglers have declared war. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and drop our units off. They're going to take some shuttles, and we can rapidly sneak attack these guys while the militia hold off as long as they can. But that's a huge mistake. They really wanted my spice, apparently. All right, well, we lost all our militia, but that's fine. Militia costs significantly less than actual military units, so I would consider this to be a pretty huge win for me. That was 4 units taken down from them. We could actually try to counterattack and maybe take some of their zones, but would it really be economically worth it for me? Probably not. It would, however, be worth trying to take over, let's say, another zone over here and try to get some additional Solari production. I don't know. These are all options that I am currently trying to work on. We have been enjoying, by the way, 50% building cost reduction. Extremely good to get in your capital area over here, which is what I'm currently trying to do. Why is this only getting me 1 economy building? Maybe I've misunderstood how some of that works. I don't know, but regardless, we're in a pretty darn good position here. Getting a 3rd set of spice production up and running is pretty great, especially since I'm going to go ahead and get some more crews going. So yeah, we're about to start producing an absolute ton of spice, which means lots and lots of money for me. 3 spice fields is solid, no doubt about it. And what I want to do is get another agent trained up so that we can send them to go and ally with this siege, because having some extra troop recruitment and training cost reduction is going to make it easier for me to sustain a fairly large military. Found another one over here, by the way, which would allow us to have some extra power to ally units in a region. That's not so bad. One thing to keep in mind with your intel, you have a maximum stack of 1,000, which we're approaching. You would do some missions if you could. For example, set up a probe operation, or maybe poison all enemies in a zone, which is pretty great, or spend a bunch of stuff in order to steal some spice and solarium plascrete production from someone else's region, right? A lot of fun things you can do. You could also, like, let's say, sabotage their defenses and poison them to make it very easy to soften them up and go take them down. These are all options for you. We can see some of the production of our enemies, like the Harkonnens, since I did spend one of my spies to go and get some intel over here, so we have some idea what they're doing. And if they're only at 24 spice production compared to my current 68, which should go even higher in a bit, that is nothing compared to me. So I am absolutely running away with the game right now. Unfortunately, we're getting raided up over here where I kind of need some of that stuff. That's going to get very irritating very quickly, but I'm glad we got the airfield set up. That's actually a pretty huge advantage, being able to move around here and quickly deal with some of these threats, since movement is obviously very difficult. Very slow and very difficult. New votes? None of these special charters coming up yet, so we're not worried about it yet, but once we pass one more round of resolutions, the judge of the council will probably be coming up at some point soon. Alrighty, well, we're not worried about the influence production at the moment. Architectural surveys. The main base is under architectural survey. Damage received, but cheaper. This actually could be good to me. It's dangerous if some... I mean, this is really good if I plan on using this against someone else, like the smugglers, and go attack their home city, but I'm not sure I want to do that. We could try to regulate Harkonnen and maybe make them lose a lot of plascrete. That's an option. But actually, no. 20% building cost reduction would allow me to possibly get some pretty nice stuff built up in my capital a little bit cheaper and a little bit faster. So I'd like to do that. Oh, this is funny. I caught the smugglers trying to take out a village that I was interested in, so now I'm attacking them from behind and wiping them out, and now I get the village for practically free. Oh god, sandworm. Yeah, that's actually kind of hilarious. Alright, so they passed a couple things against me, including the Plascrete Upkeep, good lord, brain, these words do make sense. I swear they do, even if you're struggling with it a little bit. Regardless, though, we're doing really well here. I'm going to take a bit more Solari production, and we can continue getting some of these great upgrades in my capital city. I'm actually wondering if you have to build some of these, like, in a group. Like, if I had built this research center down here, would I get my second economy law? I'll bet you that's actually how it works, and you can only ever get one level 3 that way. That's kind of interesting, but regardless, we're in a dominant position, and pretty soon we would be taking the fight over to the smugglers, I think, try to wipe them out, take their spice operations, and then really nothing would be able to contest me. But you can see the Emperor is getting increasingly demanding, so don't get too complacent, otherwise bad things are probably going to happen. Anyway, so that is a look at Dune Spice Wars. Like I said, it's a pretty darn fun game. I think where a lot of the complexity of the game could be taken into account would be with operations. We obviously haven't done anything with these as of yet. It would be kind of interesting to see what those are able to do. But between the voting system, which can really mess up your game, between the increasing difficulty of getting plenty of spice as well as some chome, with managing lots of resources and defending against various different factions, I mean, this game is pretty surprisingly in-depth. It's a very fun game, and remember, this is an only early access. I personally haven't seen any evidence of any particular bugs or even hiccups. It runs amazingly well, it looks great, and in its current state, it's a pretty darn fun little RTS. So if you guys would like to learn more, of course, you can find a link in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.